Thank you for joining us here at CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. I'm Star Parker, the president and founder of CURE. CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, has gathered a few of our national pro-life friends here in Washington, D.C. to announce a summer of revival, a summer of renewal, to affirm the good news of the reversal of Roe v. Wade, a plague that has tormented our nation since 1973. And to push against the Biden administration as it looks to turn back the hands of time and codify Roe, codify abortion into national law. We're here to celebrate the Supreme Court decision. We're here to celebrate for them unleashing a new opportunity of revival and restoration of survival in our nation's poorest communities. For the last 50 years, our nation's black community has been preyed upon through the abortion law of Roe, and as a result, we have become the scourge of our great country, a pariah that the world looks on with disdain. Abortion is an illusion that sucked the very energy of life from the black community. The shedding of innocent blood that flowed through Roe has left us as a people first in abortion, first in not providing marriage for our offspring, first in high school dropout rates, first in welfare dependency, first in committing homicide, and first in prison. As a result of abortion, African Americans lost the high ground of our ancestors who endured slavery and Jim Crow and a welfare state that lured our men to abandon the mother of their children. 5 years after the death of Dr. King, Roe v. Wade became national law, which led Planned Parenthood to set up death camps in our communities and then target our most vulnerable women. Abortionists have legally preyed on our nation's most vulnerable for the last 50 years to savagely and brutally dismember their offspring, their posterity, the very forming of humanity growing in their womb, whom God has called his reward. For 50 years, abortionists have gotten away with maiming and molesting and even murdering confused women, both young and old, ripping families apart, ripping our country apart. In January 2022, CURE released its annual report on the impact of abortion on the black community for those of you that want to see the repulsive and staggering data and statistics. It's available on our website, curepolicy.org. In 2013, CURE brought a delegation of African American leaders here to Washington, D.C. after the discovery of what Kermit Gosnell had been doing in his so-called safe, legal, rare abortion mill in Philadelphia. I want to read to you the testimony that was submitted into congressional record at that time by Mrs. Day Gardner, president of the National Black Pro-Life Union based here in D.C., as she could not be with us today to read it herself. The testimony. I cringed and gnashed my teeth while sitting in the almost empty Philadelphia courtroom, hearing testimony after testimony of babies screaming and screeching while being killed by Gosnell and his employees. I heard the gruesome testimony by abortion clinic workers about how Gosnell would deliver fully developed, viable children and then turn them over to cut their spinal cords. Gosnell even joked that one baby was big enough to walk to the bus stop. Then he cut that little boy's neck and tossed him into a shoebox. It was no big deal to him to kill these children, to slash their necks as they struggled, as they strained, as they cried. And if that wasn't grotesque enough, he severed off the feet of several babies and kept them displayed in jars on a shelf as a sort of souvenir. Gosnell stored the bodies of children in milk jugs and large soft drink containers and juice bottles. 47 babies were found in a refrigerator freezer. They had to be thawed out like TV dinners so the coroner could determine their first and last moment of life. End quote, in our congressional record here in the United States of America, 2013. Did you even hear about this? Where were the marchers to declare a summer of rage after that discovery? Where were the voices of the Congressional Black Caucus as the entire political left and media elite buried this, what should have been headline news throughout the Gosnell trial? Did the political leaders declare a national resolution to end these types of horrors in our black and brown communities? Where was the call for a national public health emergency back then? Where was then Vice President Joe Biden? to sign an executive action to address the houses of horror inside abortion clinic after clinic after clinic of maiming and molesting and even murdering black woman after woman after woman. The list of these horrors is long and well documented by Ms. Catherine Davis of the Restoration Project and other outstanding activists in the pro-life community. CURE is joined today by a few national leaders in the Black pro-life movement to celebrate the renewal and restoration and revival of new life and new beginnings within our families and our communities now that Roe is dead. To celebrate the so many women that this time next year will be called mom or grandmom, and to declare to the abortion terrorists that are now attacking the decent people in quiet communities all across our country who work earnestly to rescue women and their children from abortion through our pregnancy care centers. To declare to the progressive pagans now prowling our streets and restaurants and threatening our nation with a summer of rage and intimidation. And yes, to declare to President Biden and his entire administration as they attempt to codify abortion into our national law so that they can continue to kill humanity in the womb, that we are here to put you on notice of our opposition, to say not on our watch will you codify abortion without a fight. We are here to declare that we will gather by the thousands against your every attempt to turn back the hands of time to slaughter our posterity in the womb. Today, we are just a handful of the Black pro-life leaders that have labored year after year after year for this moment in history that Roe would be overturned. Today, we're here to represent Black pro-life leaders all around the country who are here in heart, that have worked tirelessly in the trenches to stop the killing of our legacy. The hundreds that have refreshed themselves throughout years and tears with the simple questions of who in history tried to stop Adolf Hitler, who in history tried to stop Margaret Sanger. Yes, this is just the first of our many efforts to fight against you, President Biden. Yes, to push against you and your progressive friends that are attempting to destroy this new opportunity for restoration of marriage and the renewal of generational family. Yes, we are here to celebrate this new revival of life within our culture and our country. And we will stand against your every move to steal this historical moment. We won't go back without a fight. I have with me friends, dear friends. We've been in this movement quite some time, and we're ready to take on all of you if we have to. We're ready to end abortion, make it not just illegal in this country, but make it unthinkable in the world. First, I have Reverend Dean Nelson, dear friend, longtime friend, president of the Frederick Douglass Institute and DC director of Human Life Coalition. Reverend?
Thank you so much, Star. It is a pleasure to stand with these great colleagues. As she stated, many of us have been fighting this fight for many years, but it is the first time that I've stood with them since the end of the death decree of '73. And I'm pleased to say that we are celebrating, and not only us. I just left 2 days ago from a 5,000-member event, the Church of God in Christ, where they were celebrating the overturning of Roe versus Wade. At Human Coalition, we strive, as Star stated, to make abortion unthinkable in our culture. We do this through working with hundreds of thousands of women across the country who are seeking abortion. After surveying many women, of those hundreds of thousands of women that we engage with who are seeking abortion, 76% of them tell us that they would choose to parent if their circumstances were different. That is why we have teamed up with a great coalition around this country of more than 2,300 pregnancy resource centers that today say that our doors are open and we are here to serve women who find themselves in crisis during a pregnancy. We are also pleased to say that we are standing with other organizations like the Frederick Douglass Foundation, which together 2 years ago, we had over 120 black leaders who stood against Planned Parenthood and stood for life. Many of those who are standing with me today signed that document, and it included black pastors, black doctors, African American teachers, professionals, athletes, lawyers, because there is a strong pro-life voice in the black community that the media has not yet really listened to. And we want to say with unequivocal that we stand against President Biden and any effort at the federal level or at the state level to put into law anything that says that it is okay to take the life of an innocent human being, particularly in urban communities. Because we are not ignorant of the fact that Margaret Sanger in 1939 penned that letter to Clarence Gamble that stated, "We don't want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." She cleverly said that the minister was the one who could help her in her diabolical plot. Well, at the Douglas Leadership Institute, we have engaged with now over 500 black ministers who have signed on to say that they will stand against abortion by signing a decree that is stating the Jeremiah 1 and 5 Project. We know that we stand against abortion for sacred reasons, but also we understand, as many of the scientists and doctors who signed on to this agreement, we know that there is also a legal and a biological and scientific reason. 98% of biologists agree that life begins at conception. And our work with pro-life doctors around the country who stand for the protection of innocent life understand that, and we are making that clear in every state house where we can get them to testify. I will close today with a quote from my great hero, Frederick Douglass, who once said that I have one great political idea. The best expression of it, he says, is found in the Bible. It is in substance, righteousness exalts a nation. Sin is a reproach to any people. He says, that's the whole of my politics, the positive and the negative. We will work together in a unified fashion in every 50 state to make sure that all lives are protected, particularly the vulnerable lives of black children, by engaging in an effective way with mothers who find themselves in crisis. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Dean Nelson, president of the Frederick Douglass Institute. Next, we have Reverend Robert Solomon, vice president of the National Black Pro-Life Union here in Washington, D.C. President is Day Gardner, who I read the testimony she submitted into the congressional record a moment ago. Reverend Solomon.
Thank you. I'm just counted an honor and a privilege to be here with each and every one of the pro-life leaders, Star Parker and the others right here gathered with me on the podium, and to be in front of each and every one of you. The Supreme Court on June 24th, 2022 overturned Roe v. Wade and the Planned Parenthood v. Casey, and in the decision, the High Court ruled that there is no constitutional right to abortion, and that the issue of abortion is being returned to the elected representatives of the people in the state legislatures. And the primary purpose of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision was a tool of black elimination designed to wipe out the black population. Abortion clinics have been placed in predominantly black and Hispanic communities in a disproportionate numbers. In response to the U.S. Supreme Court's long overdue decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, President Biden and pro-abortion advocates are pressing Congress to pass legislation that imposes a national policy of abortion up until the moment of birth. The so-called Women's Health Protection Act, which was passed in the House of Representatives and now is in the Senate, advances the false narrative that abortion on demand is health care, undermines the religious freedom and conscience rights of pro-life doctors and nurses, eliminates parental notification laws, and will force taxpayers to fund abortion on demand during all 9 months of pregnancy. In addition to that, this law would also prevent future laws from being passed on a state level as well. In addition, while the bill purports to address abortion prior to viability, it cites a judicially created health exception that encompasses any kind of social or emotional circumstance to eviscerate any state limitation on abortion after viability, effectively up until birth. But despite the fact that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was the principal sponsor of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act when he was the member of the House, the Women's Health Protection Act would preempt application of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act by doctors, nurses, and other medical personnel whose religious beliefs forbid them to participate in the performance of abortion. Schumer's extremist journey is particularly stark when you consider that RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, passed the House by unanimous consent, passed the Senate by a vote of 97-3, and was signed into law by President Bill Clinton. Schumer and his colleagues are now seeking to gut the important protections provided by that landmark legislation. And as I close, in addition to these facts, we want to know that I'm also here standing opposed to the Biden administration and each and everything that they are attempting to do to codify Roe v. Wade into law, and calling upon all people of conscience, both Christians and non-Christians, to work together in a collaborative fashion to end this modern-day Holocaust that is taking place in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Solomon, Vice President of the National Black Pro-Life Union. Up next, we have CURE board member Angela Minter, our modern-day Harriet Tubman, and the president of Sisters for Life. Angela.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Star. You know, as a result of being not only a board member of CURE, I'm also the president and co-founder of Sisters for Life. And Star calls me the modern-day Harriet Tubman, so I think it's appropriate to read a quote by Harriet Tubman. And it says, Harriet Tubman, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars, to change the world." Some 20 million black babies have been killed on the altar of choice and inconvenience. And the day that Roe versus Wade was overturned, I was actually arriving in Indianapolis, Indiana, and a woman walked up to me, and I had on my pro-life, Sisters for Life t-shirt. And, you know, I really call myself pro-abundant life. Because in John 10:10, Jesus said the thief, the devil, Satan, my father likes to call him Slewfoot, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus said, I came that you shall have life, and life more abundantly, to the full, until it overflows. In other words, I placed a dream in you. Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream, and in this country, for some 50 years, we've been killing the lives of over 63 million innocent babies, killing those dreams. But in the black community, over 20 million, and those are the ones that we know about. So I stand before you today to say to President Biden, his administration, and anyone else that would try to take us back, as Star said, we're not going back. We're moving forward, and we're dreaming big. And we have great dreams for our community. So to say that you want to codify abortion into law, not on our watch. As she said, not on our watch. When Roe versus Wade was overturned, someone asked me, how did you feel? Where were you? And you know what? Not so politically correct, because some people began to cry. Some people were outraged. But I said, you know what? I began to praise and worship God. And I began to thank him, because I said for 17 years when the Lord called me to this work, after he opened up my eyes about the abortions that I had as a teenager, when I was 17 and 18 years old, paying money for abortionists that didn't care about any health care, certainly didn't care about me. And they gave me the right through the Supreme Court to go into that abortion mill and to take the lives of my baby, pay them to take the lives of my baby. So when it was overturned, I began to thank the Lord, because for 17 years when he opened up my eyes, I said, Lord, you are the same God that overturned slavery. And the same God that overturned slavery will overturn Roe versus Wade. And many people said, you know, I never thought I would see it in my lifetime. But I said, you know what? I always believed I would see it in my lifetime, because God is a faithful God. And he said, if my people who are called by my name will repent and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, then I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. And we've seen God do it, and this has been returned to the state. There was nothing in the Constitution that should have allowed abortion anyway, and now it's been returned to the state. Now let me say this. In the state of Kentucky, immediately on June the 24th, immediately Kentucky became an abortion-free state.
Glory.
Immediately, because of our trigger law. And we celebrated that. We prayed for that. Now I have a unique assignment in this fight for life, especially in the black community. And that is one of a sidewalk counselor. That is one of a mentor. That is one to work in our schools and in our churches to see families restored. Over 72% of the babies being born are being born outside of marriage. over 70%, 79% of these abortion, so-called safe, legal, and rare abortion mills are located in our community, in the inner city. So I have a unique role to be a sidewalk counselor, to let our mothers know, to let these women know God's got a better plan. And we're here to help you. We're here to serve you. We're here to listen to you, be empathic listeners, and you deserve better than abortion. And so when Roe versus Wade was overturned, immediately Planned Parenthood and the EMW abortion facility, abortion mill that kills over 4,000 women each year, and some 40% of them are black women in the state of Kentucky. Immediately they went to court challenging it. And a judge released a temporary restraining order upon our laws. I sat in court the other day, and it brought tears to my eyes because I remembered the report that CURE put out. The report that says, you know what, in Mississippi, over 72% of the babies that are being aborted are black women's babies. In Washington, D.C., here we are today, over 50% are black babies. In New York City, more babies killed than allowed to be brought into the world. Where was it? In Missouri, in Minnesota, some 70%. And in Kentucky, some 40% of the babies that are being aborted on black women, and we only make up about 13% of the population. So I wanted to go to court. They asked me to speak at the press conference. I went to the press conference, and then I went into the courtroom. And it was interesting to me that the attorneys for Planned Parenthood and the attorneys for EMW began to release some data. And Star was much like our data that we have, because it talked about how more black women need these abortion services. More black women are having the abortions. More black women are single women. They're poor, and they need to be able to have an abortion. And all of a sudden, I got greater revelation. It took me back to what I learned about Margaret Sanger. And I said, wait a minute. This is the same thing, just in different language. You're fighting for the right for black women to take the lives of our babies. What are you saying to that? What are you saying, President Biden and your administration? What are you saying, Congress? What are you saying, Black Caucus? We need, as black women, we're so poor. We're so ignorant. Right. Mm-hmm. We're so dumb. We're supposed to dumb down our dreams. That's all that we can do is have an abortion. That's all that you offer us, Planned Parenthood, when you're taking billions of dollars. Right. You're making billions of dollars. Bring true health care. Mm-hmm. Abortion is death care. If you want to see poverty ended in our communities, you want to offer health care to our women. If you really care about black women and the black community, let's bring something. Let's come to the table and talk about what will really work. Let's talk about life care. Let's talk about supporting the women and the men and saying, you know what, you're better than abortion, and we're going to give you better. God bless you.
Ooh. My sister for life, Angela Minter. Up next, we have publisher Ryan Baumberger, co-founder and director with his beautiful wife, Bethany, of Radiance Foundation. Ryan.
Thank you, Star. It's an honor to be here with you guys. We've been fighting for quite a while. I love when miracles happen. Too often people give up just before the miracle takes place. Since the Dobbs decision overturned a supremely wrong Roe v. Wade, the left has become even more unhinged, sadly not unshackled. The amount of mental and rhetorical contortions one must go through to justify the commercialized slaughter of millions of human beings is astounding. And Planned Parenthood, of course, is leading the charge. Unsurprisingly, the activist arm of the Democrat Party is throwing up every absurd charge of racism it possibly can at the pro-life movement, the movement that saves every human life regardless of our beautiful hues of skin. The mere fact that Planned Parenthood is now calling itself an anti-racist organization when it's the leading killer of black lives, about 360 black lives killed by Planned Parenthood every single day. It would be funny if it weren't so fatal. I could have been a statistic. Even though my birth mom was horrifically a victim of the violence of rape, she did not make me a victim of the violence of abortion. I'm the most marginalized among the marginalized. Though I was conceived in rape, I was adopted in love. In my family of 15, 10 of us were adopted. My amazing wife, Bethany, faced an unplanned pregnancy in her 20s, and she rejected the violence of abortion. In fact, that little girl, her name is Radiance, the reason for the name of our organization. Out of my 4 awesome kiddos, 2 were adopted, 3 were unplanned. For years, the nation's leading abortion federation claimed that abortion abolition is slavery. No, Planned Parenthood, abortion is slavery. If America was built on the back of slaves, then Planned Parenthood was built on the backs, lungs, brains, livers, and wanted severed body parts of the unborn. It was built upon the unceasing exploitation of women, pregnant people, or I don't know, birthing people, whatever term, can't keep up with the lunacy of the left. Pro-abortion activists decry that abortion has been around for decades. They can't live without it. They can't be equal without it. Gloom and doom without violence in the womb. I guess that should be their new slogan. Pro-slavery politicians thought the exact same thing about slavery. John C. Calhoun, Democratic Senator of South Carolina, once opined, "Be it good or bad, slavery has grown up with our society and institutions and is so interwoven with them that to destroy it would be to destroy us as a people." That was the Democrat Party then. They still don't see human beings as created equal now. Some things never change. President Joe Biden has signed an executive order to heavily push DIY, back alley, chemical abortions and pretend that abortion is health care. Look, if abortion is health care, then slavery was job care. Biden, who once said that Roe went too far, now absurdly claims that overturning Roe takes us back 150 years. No, it didn't take us back 150 years. It takes us back to 1972, when abortion was illegal in the majority of states. But the Democratic Party wants to codify dehumanization with laws that are far more radical than Roe ever was. Slavery 2.0, anyone? Let me give you just some comparisons between slavery and abortion. Slavery violently removed millions from their natural home, treating them as chattel that was saleable and disposable. Abortion violently removes millions of human beings from their natural homes, treating them as chattel that is saleable in severed body parts or disposable. Slavery separated children from their mothers in order to profit slave owners. Abortion severs children inside of their mothers to profit abortionists. The institution of slavery prospered by implementing systemic rape and forcing pregnancies. The industry of abortion prospers by inciting systemic promiscuity and ending pregnancies. 7 men in black robes decided that a group of humans were mere property and not protected by the Constitution in the 1857 Dred Scott decision, denying millions their God-given humanity. 7 men in black robes also decided that a group of humans were mere property and not protected by the Constitution in the 1973 Roe decision, denying millions their God-given humanity. Slavery caused American society to turn its back on the most marginalized and accept the status quo. A remnant, though, refused to be silent or to be intimidated. Out of love, they fought peacefully to abolish the evil of slavery, so that created equal applied to every member of the human family. Abortion caused American society to turn its back on the most marginalized and accept the status quo. A remnant, though, as you've seen right here, refuses to be silent, to be silenced, to be intimidated, to be vandalized, threatened, firebombed, whatever the case may be. And out of love, we fight peacefully to abolish this evil so that created equal applies to every member of the human family. Slavery and abortion, same wrongs, different century.
Wow, thank you. Publisher Ryan Baumberger, and I believe your book is Created
Not Equal.
Not Equal. Up next, final speaker will be Constitutional Attorney Jonathan Alexandre, Senior Counsel at Liberty Counsel Action. Jonathan.
Oh, President Biden, you just can't leave well enough alone, can you? The Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. So anything that you do now, including your ill-conceived, knee-jerk proposals, will only run up against the rule of law. It's only going to run up against the standards set by a right interpretation of our Constitution. There is a culture of life resurging in our country. It's been birthed in our country. And President Biden and a small set of governors that he's met with are on the extreme end of this bloodthirsty practice of abortion. It's been a practice that has been rejected by our common law. It's been repudiated by our history and our tradition, and it runs opposite to the concept of ordered liberty. It's an extreme position that a culture would tolerate the killing of any innocents. It's even more an extreme position than what other nations around us tolerate. What you are proposing, tolerating abortion through the 11th hour and into the 9th month. To the other Democrat activists that are holding political office, it's clear, and this exposes you, that you are truly heartless. You have no compassion, no care or regard for human flourishing. Why else would you want to remove state protections? Why else would you want to remove the protections that are put in place by the states to protect human life? You know, the text of the law that Congress is considering, that they've considered in the past month, that they'll be considering through the summer, it intentionally breaks any sort of protections, including those for the life of the mother, as these tools of barbarism are unleashed on a woman without any guarantee of support for her psychological or her medical needs, once again making tanning salons and tattoo parlors safer than abortion facilities. Think for a moment, as described today, just how violent and dangerous this practice is for a child, obviously, but also think of how dangerous this practice is for the mother. So there have been so many laws in response to the brutality that abortion is, because when the veil has been pulled back and abortion has been exposed behind the curtain for what it is, these laws ensure for the well-being, not just of the child, but also for the mother. But this proposed law targets those very laws. You know, if you're just casually tuning in and you're the average American hearing this and you're trying to make your way neutrally, as many of us are, about what is really going on, just read the first 7 permitted proposals of this law. The first 7 permissions of this law, all it does is talk about the abortion provider. So if I'm looking at this law and it talks about the ways in which the abortion provider can't be criminally liable, can't be civilly liable, can't be guilty of wrong, any wrong that they do, can't be responsible, held responsible at all, then you've got to say to yourself, well, I'm starting to think maybe this person, maybe this facility, maybe this industry, maybe this politician, maybe they do not have my best interest in mind. If you look additionally at the billions of dollars that the abortion industry stands to lose as a result of the Dobbs decision, the fact that they can no longer coerce you towards abortion, that also ought to be an indication where their true loyalties lie, that they do not have your best interest in mind. If you listen closely to their language, their immediate pivot was to, well, certain communities can't afford having a baby. Certain people groups just aren't economically ready to bring a child into this world. Anytime that you hear that, know that we are right back where the abortion industry started and where it's always been, a racist, eugenics, profiting industry that will do whatever they can to keep their bottom line and keep you at the bottom of their line. Even if it means stoking fear in you, even if it means lying to you. You know, it's often said out in nature where the loudest fight or the loudest cry that a dying animal reveals is right when it's down to its last breath. It lurches forward in a last-ditch effort, its last breath. Well, the abortion industry is rearing in its last breath. It's in such a desperate manner. It's important just to know how isolated these leaders are when you compare the barbarism that truly is abortion to what both the law and the culture is growing towards, which is an acceptance for life. These politicians are way more extreme. They're at their last-ditch effort in this desperate manner, so much more extreme than the rest of the country. And they are attempting, with this last gasp of breath, to remove any reasonable protections for life because they are so concerned themselves with the culture of death. You know, I'm so encouraged in the recent weeks at the attention that life has received. Don't be dissuaded by the noise that a few people who are controlling the airways are having you believe. Responsible Americans, responsible African Americans are asking the questions about adoption. We're talking about foster care, strengthening the bond and relationship between fathers and expectant mothers to provide the community, the family, the church around unexpected pregnancies. That's the conversation that's occurring so much more than what you're hearing on Capitol Hill. That's the conversation that's occurring within the African American community so much more than the noise that you're hearing from these disconnected politicians would have you believe. You know, indeed, we are at a crossroads in determining what we will do with this decision for life for our country. And it's pure evil that some of the most powerful politicians are now strategizing on how they will kill the most helpless in our nation. Abortion has been absolutely the most devastating effect on our nation. At least 65 innocent children have never had the chance to live, to include between 19 and 21 million African American babies. We are in the middle of unfolding history. We are at a crossroads to decide if states will continue this murder as usual or if we will finally end it and put it to rest forever. Put to rest forever this bloody chapter of our nation's history.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan Alexandra, Senior Counsel at Liberty Counsel Action. We're so glad we have a lawyer because this is just the beginning. If you continue on your march toward turning back the clock to continue the slaughter of the innocent in the womb, we will continue to gather more and more and more to fight you. We're here to celebrate this new revival of life within our culture and our country. And we will stand against your every move, Biden administration, Kamala Harris, Congressional Black Caucus, Chuck Schumer, and all the rest of you that are attempting to codify abortion into our national law. We will not allow you to steal this historic moment. Thank you.